Bolloré Transport and Logistics is a French group involved in logistics all across the African continent. We operate in 46 countries and we employ 24,000 people all across Africa. And we have been present in Africa for over 90 years. And as we are today in Kigali, we are very proud to have been in Kigali for over 70 years.
Interesting. So, some of the conversations here have been about reshaping African logistics value chain. So could you talk to us about the landscape of logistics in Africa and some of the main challenges you face and the probable or possible solutions?
Okay, indeed, it's a big challenge for Africa. There were numerous talks today to explain that the cost of logistics in Africa is much higher than in many other continents. Partly it is linked to infrastructure, partly it's linked to governance and other type of subject. As Bolloré, we do our part. We have been investing for the last 10 years about 3 billion euro across mostly Western Africa by building up new ports. And we see that part of the challenge is actually now that the port have been built up to international standards, being between the Bolloré investment in Western Africa, but as well Tanger in Morocco, South African port, or even Kenyan ports, the subject is no longer the port, it's what's happening outside the port. And that's where issues are still occurring and therefore generating delays, additional costs, and inefficiencies in the supply chain. So these are linked to different type of issues. First of all, in many cases, it's a question of city congestions. Once you are outside the port, you are still in the middle of the city, and the infrastructure at the time where the ports were built inside the city limits are often not adapted anymore to a modern supply chain. As well, access roads, corridors to the interland countries show limitations in terms of capacity, size, and so on. And of course, then we have the problem of the issue of documentations, customs clearance, efficiencies, and non-tariff barriers, which are delaying the process. So when we speak today of transforming the global supply chain for Africa, it means going beyond the ports. The port investment has been done. The shipping line capacity has been increased thanks to this investment in the ports. This has allowed to reduce tremendously the cost of shipping from Asia or Europe up to the African ports. But now we have to address from the port inward.
So you have summed up the issues facing logistics in Africa in infrastructure and governance. So if you look at political will on the continent, if you look at policies, how friendly are they, or how are politicians willing to improve logistics or to provide a good environment for logistics to grow?
Africa is a continent, so with 54 countries, take out the islands, we still have, 48 countries, so it shows a great diversity, and therefore it's very difficult to have a single reply or single view. There are many good things happening, and the best case, for example, will be typically what's happening in Rwanda under the leadership of the President Kagame, which has shown the implementation of single windows for company registration, processes, and so on. There are as well a number of progress made in terms of free trade agreements, either at regional level, like the East Africa Free Trade Agreement, which is one of the most efficient in Africa, with the SADC in Southern Africa. And hopefully in the future, we will have the CFTA taking shape, which will allow for a greater exchange of goods all across Africa and generating value all across the different countries.
So African countries are trying hard to boost intra-Africa trade, and that's why the Africa Free Continental Trade Area has been, signed by many countries and ratified by a big number of countries. So how do you think a strong logistics sector would support this particular ambition?
For us, it's a strategic objective. Before coming to take charge of Africa, I was for 25 years in Asia. And in Asia, 40% of our business was intra-Asia business. And the trade intra-Asia, intra-Europe, and so on is 3, 4, 5 times bigger than what is intra-Africa trade, which is estimated to be 12 to 15%. So the potential for intra-Africa trade is tremendous. As I said, we are operating in 46 countries, so whatever will move between countries is of a great interest for us. And as well, the development of regional trade will mean development of road transport, but as well multimodal transport by rail, by barge, and coastal trading, coastal shipping, which will benefit to our ports. So for us, throughout the supply chain, development of intra-Africa trade is a future challenge. It took many years for the European Union to build up and develop its free trade agreements. Same thing in Asia. So it's a matter of when rather than whether it will take place. So we are confident that with a strong governance, with a strong political will to make it happen, this will become a reality. We heard this morning IFC committing in new forms of infrastructure investments. So if you combine infrastructure investments, political will and governance, and private companies like Bolloré commitment to the continent, then I think we will have a good mix to make it a reality in the near future.
Fantastic. Before I let you go, Mr. Jérôme, talk to me about this particular forum that is happening for the 7th time now. What importance do you find it, or impact do you find it having on the continent, especially in the growth of the private sector?
So this is the third consecutive year I'm participating to the Africa CEO Forum. This forum is gaining momentum in terms of size, in terms of quality of the intervenants, in terms of political participation, as we saw this morning with 4 heads of states at the opening ceremony. It shows that there is a great interest and a great willingness from both private companies, international donors, and governments to bring together people who want to develop and invest in Africa. This is for us a great opportunity to meet customers, to meet partners, and as well to explore new opportunities for new businesses and new projects in terms of infrastructure, supply chain operations, and digitalization of our operations.